Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Are you feeling vibrant today? I'm feeling kind of vibrant today because we have the founder, the CEO, and the head honcho of Vibrant Coaching, the amazing Nicole Greer. Welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here, David. Thanks for having me.
So, Nicole, tell us about the empire, how it works, what do you do? Tell us about the business and a little bit of the backstory of how you came to the work that you're doing today.
All right. Well, the backstory is that, I had to get out of the mobile home when I was 17. And so I've been a hustler since then. So I decided I didn't want to live in the mobile home with dad anymore. I want to have my own apartment. So I got in the restaurant business. The restaurant business is very good to young, vibrant gals with a lot of energy. If you have that, you get promoted very quickly. Then I got into property management. This guy named John Gray, who was a genius, decided to make me the marketing director with no college degree. I did a fantastic job for him. Then I became the training director, which I think that's when I finally found my sweet spot in life. Is really at the core, I'm a teacher. I love to share what I know. I love to go research what we need to understand, bring it back to the team, get it in place, and give them strategy, systems, and smarts to get it applicated to whatever we're working on. And now I have my own company. I'm really an entrepreneur at heart.
I love that. Did you say strategy, system, and smarts?
Yeah, I like to put strategy, systems, and smarts in people's pockets. I'll give you a good example. People all the time are like, how do I hold people accountable? I don't know about you, David, but when I was coming up, they're like, hold your people accountable. And I was like, okay. But I didn't really know how to do it. But, I've gone out and researched accountability and, how to get people to take responsibility, motivate others, et cetera, et cetera. And so I can actually put like little recipes in your toolbox that help you really understand the concepts. And again, we can have concepts galore, but if we don't know how to apply them, they're worthless. So that's what I do. I help people apply the information I've gathered for them.
I love it. Absolutely. Well, tell us about the different revenue streams. Tell us about the different things that you sell. Break that down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the bottom line is I'm trying to help people build a vibrant culture and get their people lit. And so I do that through different things. So the first thing I started out doing was coaching. So I do executive coaching, which, coaching is comes from the word coach, meaning moving people inside of, a container, right? So I take people from A to B. The other thing that I do is I work with people in terms of training and working with teams. I do strategic planning, and I have a very boutique recruiting effort that I do, because sometimes I work with companies that do not have a robust HR department, and they need somebody who knows their company to go out and find a fantastic individual to get on board. So I do that upon request. So those are all the things that I do inside of my organization, including getting on a main stage and speaking.
Wow. I had no idea that you also did the sort of behind the scenes consulting, done for you, recruiting. That's brilliant. So it's kind of like am I hearing you correctly that in some cases, in addition to the executive coaching and the training and the speaking, you can be sort of their interim or their virtual HR director on some specialized kind of level?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, when I was talking about that genius, John Gray, that, said, you don't need to have a college degree, Nicole. You know what you're doing. You understand people. So he put me in charge of the training department. And quite oftentimes they would have me go out and recruit for community managers for Class A properties. I hired all my own people. And for many, many years, I did interviewing. And now today, I work with organizations that, again, don't have that HR function. Typically, the leader will go out and hire their people. Now, here's the problem. You've heard this before, David, is that we hire people just like us. Like, do I like you? I hire you. So it's really nice to have a third party, somebody who can take a step back, look into the culture, look at the organization, and try to find somebody who's going to come in and be able to really, light up that area of the organization that needs help. The reason why we hire people is because we need help in a certain area, right? So I help people do that. And I love that work.
Yeah. Wow. It sounds like if I can I want to do a little diversion here, a little sidebar,
Sure.
because this is really important, I think, for all of our folks that are out there in the world of sales, the world of consulting, the world of coaching, the world of HR. There are certain experts like you that we hire, and we hire them purely for their content expertise. There are other experts that we hire purely for their process expertise. Sounds to me like you're this kind of unicorn, this 1 in a million person that they can hire both, and maybe even simultaneously. You bring the content expertise and you bring the process expertise. Would you say that's right?
That's right. And I'll tell you why. So oftentimes I will be doing strategic planning. Okay, so that's a process. We're going to figure out where we're going, how we're going to get there, what the goals are, KPIs, all that stuff. Here's the problem, David. People lack business acumen. It's just a fact. And so one thing that is so helpful when I work with folks is we'll go into a certain area and then I'll say, wait, time out. We need to have a dialogue about how this works inside a business, because many people, like, for example, we have somebody who goes to school to be an accountant, somebody that goes to school, even gets an MBA, but maybe their MBA is 25 years old. Hello. And so, it's like, oh, well, we need to talk about this concept before we can make a decision about it or put strategy in place about it. So I had a friend one time who's in the same business as you and I, giving speeches, learning, he says, I love reading books, making PowerPoints and teaching them to other people. Basically what he was saying was that, we're doing our homework over here. We're doing our research. We're staying up to speed on what's going on in business. And then we have the skills and the talents to transfer it to other people and get them again, third time, to apply it to their business. That's really the key. And so if I can integrate content with actual get her done stuff, that is the magic, I think.
I'll say absolutely. And I think, even salespeople who are not necessarily the experts themselves, but they're selling a professional service or they're selling some sort of outcome, they need to be aware when their prospect does not have the business acumen to really understand all the dimensions of a problem and, of course, all the dimensions of how to solve it. I love that business acumen thing. I mean, that's almost like, it takes me back to the book, The Challenger Sale, where it's like the problem that you think is the problem is not really the problem, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think sometimes when you have, okay, now this is the other thing. When you have the ability to teach somebody something without making them feel stupid, that's another skill I think that I have. When I went through my coaching training, they taught me this really great technique, and you can put this in your pocket and apply it today, is to ask permission. So a lot of times we're like, well, you know what you ought to do or what you need to do. There's that whole thing. And then there's this thing like, I have an idea for you. May I share it with you? I've got a nugget that I think would really help clear things up. Can I tell you? The minute you get the other person, and this is all sales too, right, David? The minute I get the other person to say yes, they think they're in the driver's seat. And then I give them the information that they need. And then it's very powerful because it's almost like they asked for it instead of me like pushing it on them or forcing or something.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Permission-based, question-based. It's almost like you're a trial attorney and you're never asking them a question that you do not want to hear the answer to in open court.
Right. Exactly.
I love it. Well, Nicole, let's roll up our sleeves. We'll go to the good, the bad, and the ugly section of the program. Yes. So let's talk about an opportunity that you thought you totally lost. Either you blew something in the sales process or somehow maybe, you were trying to do something and they were just not picking up what you're laying down, but it ended up in a sale anyway. So either you didn't blow it or whatever gaffe, whatever mistake, whatever misstep, the prospect didn't perceive it, or it was a brilliant recovery. Is there a sale that you won that was especially surprising for you?
Yeah. So I did one of those recruiting efforts that we were just talking about. And I hired a gentleman to go inside of an organization. And then I sold them a retainer to work with this individual every single month for 6 months. And at the 6-month mark, we were going to renew that. And so I worked diligently with this young man. I got him set up. I was helping him develop. And again, this is like a consulting piece that I do. I was helping them put a university, the University of X, inside of their organization for learning and development. And so I was working through that whole process. And I think at some point, I thought maybe it was too much Nicole, right? And they canceled the retainer. They said, we don't need it. This gentleman is doing really, really well. So that's kind of the rub of the business I'm in. Sometimes like people are like, we're doing better. We don't need her anymore. And so I was like, oh, so sad, because I was having a great time working with this young man, really just kind of being like a leader in there for him where there was kind of a void. And because he was so fantastic, don't miss that. I hired a really great guy. Because he was so fantastic, they're like, we don't really need Nicole anymore. We're going to save some money. Well, every time I lose business, I write a thank you note. Thank you for having me as long as you've had me. I'd like to come back, always, planting the seed that I'd like to return. And of course, I stay in touch with this young man because I think he's only in his 30s. Got a whole big career that I need to stay affiliated with him. So anyways, long story short, I get this phone call from him like 30 days later. And he's like, here's what we're going to do in 2022. We're going to have you come in and teach these series of classes inside the university. And the company has a really robust video and studio setup, and they're going to record it. They're going to give me video, and all of this is going to help my speaking career. And it just kind of flipped on me out of the blue. And so it's not that I wasn't helping. They just wanted to kind of, I think, put the money in a different place. But I would have liked to have both and. But I didn't.
Yes, exactly. So they took the money out of your left pocket and they put it into your right pocket.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's still a win. I wish it would have been left pocket, right pocket, win-win that way. But,
Two-pocket client. We're after the two-pocket client.
That's exactly right.
But I think people also need to, rewind, re-listen to what Nicole just said. You lose a piece of business, you write a thank you card. How many people lose a piece of business and they get upset? They get angry. I never liked them anyway. They were jerks. They don't realize how awesome I am. I'm never speaking to them again. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars do people lose when they don't stay in touch with a piece of business that they lost and still wanting to be of service and still wanting to be helpful to that client, maybe in some other way, maybe the money going into a different pocket?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I love a phrase I got from a lady named Lori Beth Jones. I got it from her, in the 90s. I was in one of her books called The Path. And she said, here's what you need to do is turn old business into new business. So, you never take a no personally per se. And that's one of the 4 agreements. You know that book by Don Ruiz?
Yes.
Yeah, that one. It's like you have no idea what's going on in that company. You have no idea. So be gracious, be a woman of integrity. I think that's really, really important.
Huge. Absolutely huge. Hey, if you're loving this episode as much as I am, pop over to doitmarketing.com/manifesto and get your free 37-page download guide to how to sell smarter, sell more easily, sell more often. That's what we're here to help you with at The Selling Show. Off you go. Well, let's go to the flip side. And I know that speaking of anger and upset and resentment, I know that this sometimes pushes my emotional buttons, and I know it does with our listeners. Sale is going great, Nicole. They love you. You love them. You're already counting the commission money. You're already counting the sale. This has already happened. You're grateful in advance. You're like, I can't wait to start working with these folks. And suddenly it comes to a grinding halt and they say, thanks, but no thanks. And it's one of those sales stories where we are, unfortunately, grab defeat from the jaws of victory. In medical terms, we would say, the operation was a huge success. I did everything right, but the patient died and I lost the sale. Give us a quick story and then some advice and lessons learned from that experience.
Yeah. So I really try to market to the HR director because he's got his pulse on what's going on inside the organization. So I do a lot of speaking to the Society for Human Resource Management, local chapters, et cetera. So I have a lot of gals out there that I've known for a lot of years. I consistently speak, especially here in North Carolina. And so I had one of the gals call me. She's like, Nicole, I finally have a coaching opportunity for you. And so I feel like, oh, I'm a shoo-in because I've known this gal. She shows up in the classroom every time I show up in the classroom. And she's like, I want you to go and talk with this guy that, he really needs coaching. And I'm like, okay, I'll be glad to go talk to him. And I don't know what happened to me, but I didn't have the right thinking pattern, but I got it now, is that, wait a minute. The guy who needs coaching is going to decide on the coach, or should we, figure out what kind of coach we need for this guy? And so anyways, the gentleman sat down with me. I have this philosophy that I share with my clients. I say, one of the things you hire a coach for is to practice truth telling, honesty, and candor. And that's the only way it works, David. If you were in the Olympics and they're like, you don't run fast enough and you don't believe that, then, why have a coach? And so the reality is that, I will say, I noticed this. And so I think if we worked on this, this would really help you in communicating with your team or getting more sales or doing whatever. And so, this gentleman, I don't think he wanted anybody to tell him the truth. I don't think he wanted anybody to be honest. I don't think anybody wanted him to be candorous with them. And so I didn't get it. And I didn't get my foot inside the door. And like a lot of people probably listening to this podcast, once I get my foot in the door, people are like, ooh, she knows a lot and she's helpful and she's fun. So it's good to work with Nicole. But, you got to get your foot in the door. And this guy, I'm telling you, not fun, doesn't want honesty, doesn't want to know anything new. That's why he needed coaching in the first place. So that really hurt my feelings that I didn't figure that out for myself. I was mad at myself. I hurt my own feelings. I should have questioned her.
Yes. And I think the lesson that you shared before we flipped on the microphones is sometimes the problem that we are looking to solve, the problem the client is looking to solve, is the same problem that obstructs the sale. Talk about that for a minute.
Well, yeah. He is having problems in the workplace with his behavior. Okay. And so at the end of the day, what does coaching help people do? It helps people work on their core behaviors. I have a coaching methodology and it's called SHINE because I'm vibrant. And so it's about do self-assessment. What's going on with you? What's it like to experience you? What are the habits you have in place? Are you a man or a woman of integrity? What are your next right steps? And let's manage your energy. Okay. And so that's how I help people move forward. Well, this guy is obviously stuck. And, here's the truth of the matter. Some people like being stuck. It's very comfortable in the mud. And so, I'm fat, I'm happy, I'm sassy, I'm down here. Nobody's going to fire me. They got me a coach. And so what he really needed was somebody to come in there and start telling him the truth, challenge his thinking patterns. He didn't want that. And so he was the problem. That's why I got called. And then he talked to me. He's like, oh, heck no. And so I got fired before I got hired. So there you go.
It's like going to a really skilled dentist who's going to give you a vigorous tooth cleaning. And you're like, ow, that hurts. But it's exactly what you need. Get the gunk out of the gums, get the gunk out of the teeth. And it's like, would you like to come back for a second trip to the dentist? No, not really. Because sometimes the truth hurts and change hurts. I want to go back to what you just said, which is brilliant.
Okay, brilliant.
It's about the benefits of being stuck, and it's comfortable in the mud. Any salesperson and every person listening to this podcast, when you get hired, when you make a sale, part of what you're selling, a significant part of what you're selling, is change.
Absolutely.
And clients generally don't want to change because it is comfortable being stuck. There's all kinds of benefits, aren't there, to being stuck. When you're stuck, you don't have to do work. You don't have to put your neck out. You don't have to risk. You don't have to, maybe look foolish in front of your peers. You don't have to possibly lose revenue. When you're stuck, you're not going to win, but in your mind, you're also not going to lose. Totally false mindset, of course. Talk about how do you overcome the reluctance to change and that comfort that sort of anesthetizing comfort of being stuck in the mud. How do you overcome that, both as a salesperson and as a coach? And I think what's really cool, Nicole, would you agree that on some level, great coaching is a sales process and great selling is a coaching process in both sides of your work, before you're hired and after? How do you get people out of that comfortable mud?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, the first thing we need to do is we need to make people aware of their current situation, right? And they have to figure out that they are missing out on something. Okay. And so when I sit down with folks, the very first question I ask people, and I said it just a minute ago, which is, what is it like to experience you? And oftentimes this really throws people off their game, because they'll say something like this. They'll say, I've never really thought about that before. And I'm like, well, that's why we're here, is we're here to think about that. And I work with leaders, and the leader cannot be content. Okay. And people will say to me, this is a very important thing, David. They will say, isn't it okay to be content? I'm like, not if you want to be in business, because contentment will put you out of business. So we all know about the Blockbusters, the Circuit Cities, all those people. Maybe I'm dating myself, but those companies are gone because they could not stay relevant. My husband and I were talking about stocks the other day, and I'm like, buy Amazon out the wazoo. That is where it's going. And we had some Walmart. I'm like, get rid of it, because Amazon's going to eat Walmart for dinner. So the truth of the matter is, you cannot be content. If you're the type of person that likes to be content, you don't need to be in business. You need to be in some kind of service situation where you can give the same repeated process to somebody over and over and over. Get it mastered. You can be fantastic at it. You can be what I like to call a steady Eddie, which is so important in business. But if you're a leader, oh my God, you have got to move it forward. All right. So to get people out of it is you have them do some self-awareness. The second thing you do is you have them look at their habits, like I said a minute ago. And I'm going to skip down in my Shine Coaching methodology to energy. And there are 6 energies that leaders have to pay attention to. What do you know about the situation? What do you feel about the situation? What is your spirit telling you? Now, that's not trying to be too weird, David, but it's more like
spidey senses, right? Intuition.
Right. And esprit de corps. Are we excited about this? Do we love what we're doing? Right. Then there's the social energy. Am I influencing, impacting other people to want to do what I think we should do, I feel we should do, and I know we should do? And then there's the energy of money. Now, I think most people go to work because they want a paycheck, and most entrepreneurs get into this business because they want to earn money. But you will not earn money if you don't have those other 5 energies cooking at a very high level. You got to be reading. You got to be doing emotional intelligence. You got to be sitting quietly, reflecting on your day. You got to talk to a lot of people, and then you'll make the money. So I help people kind of look at those 6 facets so that they can go, I got a lot of work to do. I'm losing out because I'm not reaching my full potential.
Wow, so much gold there. Did I mention you're going to want to rewind this episode, listen to it again, slow it down, back up the truck? You know what to do. So much gold that you dropped there. This whole concept of contentment, complacency, arrogance. Let me ask you this, Nicole, because I think this is also a big distinction, especially with those of us that sell coaching, but really those of us that sell anything. When you are in a sales conversation, sometimes the prospect, the economic decision maker, is also the end user of the service, right? So I want to talk to you about coaching me. And that's one kind of sales conversation. Sometimes I want to talk to you about coaching my team. And I might not necessarily be open to coaching. I might not even think I need coaching. Everyone needs coaching, by the way, my friends. But you are specifically initially hired, hey, Nicole, can you come in and work with our 7 VP level management team? Is there an energetic difference to you when you're selling to the economic buyer who's also going to be the client versus the economic buyer who is hiring you on behalf of some other people inside the company?
I'm going to say no, because I am super passionate about what I do. And that's like another thing. Like if you don't love what you're selling, you should find something else to sell. So if you're selling yourself, buddy, you better be excited about what you think you can do. Okay. So I would say to me, there's not an energetic difference. but I am going to always try to get to the financial decision maker. And that's where I think things fall apart is I can't trust, like, let's say I'm talking to the HR director, but the CEO is going to make the decision. I got to get a conversation with the CEO only because I can't trust the HR director to be my salesperson.
Yeah.
I mean, she or he is not a salesperson. I promise.
Yes. Well, and so this is one of the epic sales challenges that I would love your advice on. A lot of folks listening, they're like, well, if I talk to the HR person first, I can't go to the CEO. She would think I'm going over her head. She would think I'm trying to cut her out of the sale. She would think I'm not respecting her authority. How do you up-level the conversation when you come in at level 3? You realize, this isn't the economic decision maker. I got to get to level 1. How do you skillfully and diplomatically do that without making the other person feel upset or cut out?
I would just invite it to be a group conversation. And I will tell you what I think. I think that the person that's at level 3, if you're a good salesperson and you've got them convinced, okay, so like, let's pretend that's the scenario, they could use your help. And that's how you have to look at it. I'm not trying to cut out all those things you said. I'm not trying to cut out, go above, jockey around or whatever. I'm trying to help. And that's what we do is we help people get out of their own way. And so I am going to help this HR person and even strategize with them. I know you're not the money. You don't have the ability to make the final decision. However, I'm available, I'm open, and I would love to help you share with your leader what it is that I can do and what, is my unique selling proposition, right? Like the unique thing that I can provide. And usually, I don't know about you, David, but you have a lot of energy. Have you noticed this about yourself?
I have.
I have that same issue or problem or gift, whatever you want to call it. And I can bring that energy to the process. Now, at the same time, sometimes these folks that are at the very top, they're a little, stuffy, stuck in their way. The HR person is scared of their own boss.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of weird dynamics in there. But because I have studied people and worked with people and been in the people business since the restaurant days at the Applebee's, I do think I can read people. And so I can come in real nice and soft and slow with whoever the decision maker is, but then work it into a coaching or sales coaching conversation to get that person to start to think. So can I tell you a little really quick story?
Please.
Okay. So I have a niece and she's now in her 30s and has 3 kids and the whole shot and married a doctor. She did really well. And she's got an MBA, blah, blah, blah. So she's an amazing gal. Well, she used to come live with me every summer during high school, and she's a very attractive gal. So all the boys would be flocking around my house on these summers, and she's in a bathing suit. I would have all these conversations with her that she was not having with her own parents because I would get her in the summer. And because I wasn't coach, I would ask her all these questions. And she said to me one time, she said, well, Aunt Nicole, I have started to think. And I was like, well, hallelujah. Because that's the contentment piece, right? So a lot of times we just think one way, and then somebody comes into our life, asks us some powerful questions. We start to think in a different way, and this really helps us. So that's what I do when I try to get past the level 3 gal. She's already with me. She knows that they need this training, this coaching, this whatever. But the guy at the top may not be convinced all the way there or that I'm the right gal. So I got to get in there and challenge his or her thinking so that either they go, I see it, or they go, oh crap, if we don't do this, we're in trouble. I got to take them up the feeling scale or down the feeling scale, one way or the other, so that they're uncomfortable and they get out of this middle of the feeling scale where this really terrible word hangs out. How you doing, David? I'm fine. If you're fine, you are content, and content will kill you. So that's what I think you can do is you can open up people's thinking, and that's when you can make the sale. It's when they decide I'm in trouble or I see how it would be better.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there. Well, I've got one more tactical question, and then we're going to go into sales superpower and sales kryptonite, and then how people can also get connected to more of your brilliance. Question is about door opening, lead generation. You said this early on, and I totally agree with you. Most of the folks listening, I think, would agree. Once they're in front of a prospect, they know what to do, right? They are fantastic. They ask the right questions. They're doing a lot of things right. How do we get in front of the right people? What are some door opening, lead generation strategies that you've tried? And just even for you personally, what do you find has worked and what do you find has not really worked?
Okay, well, three things come to mind. First thing is I have a list. So every human I ever touch, get a business card from, having an audience, sitting in my training room, I get their first name, last name, email, and I try to get their United States Postal Service address. So I have several lists, and I'm going to tell you a quick story about that. I had a gentleman who is in public works inside of a municipality that I did some leadership development with. So he's the public works guy. And I send a Thanksgiving card this year. He sends me an email that says, Nicole, this card arrived just at the right time. Got a coaching contract with him. Okay, so the list. You got to work the list. You got to send stuff to the list. You can't just build it. You got to send stuff to it. And very traditional things like cards, emails, dare I say it, the newsletter. But I have good content in my newsletter. All that goes out to the list. So that's how you keep the list alive. And you'll have people who don't touch you for 3 years. Then all of a sudden they need you, or they get a new job and they go somewhere and that place is a hot mess. And they're like, oh, we got to bring Nicole. So again, remember when I said about the guy, I don't want to make this guy mad that I've hired into this company. He's 30. He's going to be working for another 30 years. He needs to be on Nicole's radar for 30 years. Then the next thing I think is so important is to figure out who can bring you into the company. And so, like I have said, I have kind of determined that the HR director is like an internal advisor to a lot of people. If I'm going to hire salespeople, I go to the HR gal, she gets with her recruiter or whatever. So she's kind of like a funnel, or he's kind of like a funnel. So I speak at as many SHRM meetings as I can. Now, at the state level, they'll pay you, but at the local level, they don't got no money. I don't care. It's 1 hour. And I get 30 people in the room that are my people. And I give them lots of free stuff and they call me later. And then I think the third thing is LinkedIn. I'm out on all the other things, but LinkedIn is really where the decision makers hang out in terms of social media. So, and here's the thing on social media, you have to be social. That's why they call it social media. So like 3 times a day, I'll get drawn into LinkedIn and I'll make a comment. I'll wish somebody well on their promotion. I'll share another person's content onto my channel. And then I post there regularly with all my podcasts and all my other junk I do. So those are my 3 things, I think. What do you think of those 3 things?
Oh, no, really, really good. With the HR person, I know there's a raging battle in the sales universe. No matter what we sell, we could be selling snack foods for the break room. And people go, let me go to the HR person. Because you mentioned that sometimes the HR person doesn't hold the purse strings. Maybe the majority of the time, they don't hold the purse strings. Do you see a difference when you're looking at all these different companies that you want to serve? Is there a difference between the doorway and the decision maker? So often the HR person can be an easy doorway, but they are not. The doorway is not the same person as the decision maker. Apparently, you still find it really valuable to get a lot of doorway conversations happening. The doorways get that foot in the door that you were mentioning earlier. Then you can check out the internal landscape of where are the real decision makers and how can you use your doorway person as an advocate, as an introducer, and as a conduit to get to the actual decision makers without cutting them out, without making them feel bad. In fact, with including them and probably making them feel like a rock star. Talk about the difference between a doorway person and a decision maker. And are they sometimes the same?
Oh, obviously. Yeah. Sometimes they are exact same person. And, I think the doorway person, hello, you can't sell to anything inside the business until you get through the door. You got to go through the door. And so I think, the HR folks, well, first of all, I want to say this about HR. I belong to the Society of Human Resource Management at the national level. Like, if those are your people, you got to go be one of the people. Like, that's how I've done so well, I think, is because I belong to the place where they hang out. I continuously serve that organization. And so I'm not perceived as a salesperson. I don't think. I'm perceived as a trusted advisor and as a resource that would call Nicole. Maybe she knows, that kind of thing, and that takes time and effort, all the energies we were talking about. I got to intellectually know what's going on in human resources, all the energies I just talked about. And I got to show up at the meetings. Hello. So, that's key. Now, oftentimes they'll bring me in, like I said, okay, so I work with a credit union. I worked with a gal who was in training and development, which is usually part of the HR. Maybe now, if it's a big organization, it's part of L&D, learning and development or whatever. But I met her and she said to me, "Oh my God, you have got to meet my CEO." I said, "Okay, what you said today is exactly what he needs to hear." Now, she warned me though. She's like, "Listen, Nicole, you cannot be bubbly and crazy like you are in this classroom. You can't do that." And I said, "Okay." And she trusted me to dial it in. And then I went in, I told him exactly what I said to her in this room that we were in during our SHRM meeting. And he received it. Now, he's a lot slower than she is. It's a personality thing, I think. He's slower to make choices, slower to get to know people, slower to trust. But because he trusts her, if it's healthy between those two, then he's going to tolerate me. Now I've been working with them for like 4 years. And now I let it rip. And he's like, that's how she is. It's okay. He knows I don't have any malintent, that my vibrancy can only help him.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a great story. Oh my gosh. You have to meet my fill in the blank, right? If we can get more of those conversations going, we're going to win the sales game. Totally love it. So final 2 questions before we tap into some little secret gifts and some things that people can get from you. And we're going to have all those goodies in the show notes. Let's talk about sales superpower and sales kryptonite. Sales superpower is something that you are especially excited about, that, man, oh man, this is my one thing that if I get to use this in a sales conversation, I'm almost always going to win. Sales kryptonite, of course, on the other side of the spectrum, it's an area for improvement. It's an area, man, I wish I could be better. I'm currently working on getting better. What's the sales superpower? Tell us a little bit about that. What's the sales kryptonite?
Okay. Well, I would say my sales superpower is listening. And as a coach, I have been professionally trained to listen. And you might think that sounds ridiculous, but I'm going to tell you something. Listening is amazing. And so I am able to listen to what people say. I'm even taking notes as I'm sitting here talking to David. This is my little note-taking book. Look at it, it's fresh for 2022. And so I use my little book. And then what I do is I slow the person across from me down. And I say, hold on a minute, before you go any further, may I interrupt? That's asking a question. And I say, what I just heard you say, and this is a very simple classic. They teach you this in Communication 101 in college. I paraphrase what they just said. And so I'll say, what I just heard you say, da 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 da. And then I say, did I get that right? Sometimes people go, you nailed it. And they're shocked. Because here's what I know about leaders. They would love somebody to listen to. And so if you listen to the leader, they will be like, oh my God, she listens. Okay. And that's a wonderful thing. Now, the second thing is sometimes you'll have somebody who's like, no, you didn't get it right. And then I say, well, straighten me out. And they'll say, well, what I really meant, now I did listen probably okay, but they think what came out of here is one thing and it's different from what, like there's a disconnect or something, or it wasn't really dialed in. And so they'll straighten me out. And then I'll say, thank you for giving me that clarity. That's going to help our relationship when we can get clearer and clearer about what you want. And I'm going to keep this going. So that's something I'll say also. Let's keep this going where we're having this, back and forth and we're really communicating. Because I don't know about you, but like I've had many contracts where I've like sent the contract. They hired me. I never talked to the guy again or gal. And it's like, you got to establish rapport, man. That is huge. So I would say that is my best thing I do.
And then how about sales kryptonite, something that you're working on, you wish you had it dialed in just a little bit better?
So I'm a big fan of David Newman. And if you're listening, I know you are too. And so one of the things that I think is that I offer a lot. And so it might be confusing to people. So I think I need to be more laser focused in some way. And one of the things that I think that I love that you talk about is this, how are you pissing people off? Okay. That's one of the things that you say. And, my good Southern self is like, don't piss anybody off. I had this German grandmother, so she doesn't sound very Southern, but her name was Myrtle Clara Catherine Charlotte Whitkapale. And so, oh my gosh, she would be like, be nice. That was her thing that she would tell me my whole life growing up, be nice. So pissing people off is not in my thing, but I think I need to piss more people off.
We can work on that.
Okay, will you help me? I
will totally help you. That happens to be one of my superpowers. One of my only superpowers is, man, oh man, do I know how to piss people off?
Right. Well, I had an idea because I was listening to your podcast and your stuff for 2 hours before we got on here. I'm like, you got to get ready for David because he is a powerhouse. But it's back to that guy that didn't hire me because I wanted to practice truth telling, honesty, and candor. So I have this thing where I say, I don't want to set you all up, but how many of y'all think you're men and women of integrity? Well, David, if you ask a whole audience of people if they're men and women of integrity, how many hands go up? All of them. Right. And then I say, y'all are a bunch of liars. And that pisses people off. But I don't set them up. I go, don't raise your hand. I make it nice.
Right.
Because here's the truth about integrity, David. It comes and it goes. It's not a permanent state. And everybody thinks I'm good. And it's like, no, you have to be conscious, aware, do reflection, and try to be better every day. Going back to our contentment conversation. You've got work to do, people. I got work to do, David. We both have work to do. So,
amen. Times 10. Wow. Well, Nicole, I know folks definitely want and need to get in touch and stay in touch with more Nicole Greer brilliance. Where can we send people? Tell us about the website. Tell us about what gifts do we have for people. And we're going to load all of this up under this episode in the show notes. But where can we send people? What can we give them?
Yeah. So the first thing I would love to do is I would love to give people an opportunity to do this exercise called the radiance of your life. Like, what impact and influence are you having anyway? And that's where leaders need to start. And again, it's part of my methodology I put together. The first thing we have to do is self-assessment. So I'd like to give that to people. And if people want to find out more about me, they can go to the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. I have a podcast with many, many episodes. I've interviewed amazing people like David Newman and and other authors and people. A big part of that podcast is about increasing. Remember, there are 6 energies, one of them being intellectual. Like, if you didn't learn something new today, it's a problem. The information in the world is abounds. Go figure it out. So I give all sorts of different information there. Also, if you go to my website, you obviously can sign up. And then every 2 weeks, I know that sounds like a lot. Your email inbox is full, but you get a lot of garbage. And if you get an email from me, there will be the introduction to the 2 upcoming podcasts that are going to be released. And then again, an article that teaches you something and then tells you how to apply it to your leadership style. As you're going to put it right in your leadership toolbox. And then the next time this thing happens, whatever it is, you're like, oh, I've got Nicole's formula for accountability. I've got Nicole's formula for giving feedback. Whatever it is that you need, it will show up, and you just drag and drop them into a little folder in your email that says Build a Vibrant Culture with Nicole Greer. And then anytime you need it, you can just go back. So I'm building you a little reference file of everything that you need.
Awesome. The reference library of vibrant success. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Well, Nicole Greer, thank you. Totally awesome. And I appreciate all the gold nuggets and the gems that you dropped here. For folks listening, rewind this puppy, listen to it again, And definitely grab the resources that are linked in the show notes directly under this episode at thesellingshow.com. All right, Nicole, thank you again. Totally amazing.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. Great energy.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.